Hello and welcome back to the Master Division of the Intermezzo Championship. The start into the season has been quite nice for me so far. I was able to win my first two games, with that I'm in the lead in the standings despite having one game less finished than both Payada and Arne. And today we are going to take a look at the final game of the first batch, which will be against Danny Boy and Brightfuture. Both of them didn't really have the greatest start, so for them maybe winning this game would be quite important to stay in touch with Arne and Payada and for the fight against relegation. Well, I have now a very big chance to go into the second batch of games with quite a big lead, 6 points lead against Payada. That of course would be great. And now let's see how the game went and if I managed to achieve it. I'm playing in the first position in this game, and first of all we can take a look at the leaders and wonders. And we can see that in H3 we have Pierre plus the Internet, which is a strong combination. We have all of the theater leaders with Chaplin, Marlene Dietrich and Fleming, however there's no Hollywood. We have Steve Jobs and Marie Curie as some lab leaders, but no spaceflight. There is the Manhattan Project, there's Churchill for the military, there's also the Red Cross. In H2 we have both Suez Canal and James Cook, so colonization strategy could work out quite well. We have Bach and Gaudi as some culture leaders, also Darwin potentially. We have Newton as a strong science leader. We have Robespierre, Napoleon as military action leaders. In H1 we have generation of Argeny and Shishka as military action leaders. Genghis Khan can help with the strength. We have Columbus, Isabella, who can work nicely together with the Suez Canal. Michelangelo is there, and also Gutenberg for some lab and printing press synergy. The Forbidden City is there, but no St. Peter's Basilica. Both Silk Road and Universitas are there, and then Himeji Castle to help with the strength, but no Great Wall. I think the first pick is relatively easy for me here. I can only take a wonder. I think the library is just very solid. Acropolis can be fine in 3-player games, but I would rather have the library, and I think there is a decent chance that at least Alex or Homer might be available for me for one civil action at the next turn. Danny Boy could maybe now think about taking something like Acropolis plus a yellow card, but he decides against it and rather wants to have the Rome Roads, who maybe gives some more economical benefits. Brightfuture then goes for Alex and the Acropolis, so has a leader and a wonder already. Maybe could have taken the Acropolis just with 2 yellow cards and then maybe going for a leader at the next turn. I do think that could have been fine. I'm not the biggest fan of Alex, but like this he knows what he gets and can then maybe, thanks to having saved a civil action with having both of those things already, maybe then take a yellow card at the next turn. With him taking Alex, also taking Alex over Homer, I also think I maybe would have preferred Homer, especially with the Acropolis, a cheap and easy to build wonder. I can now go for Homer, which I was happy about. Of course, maybe I could go for Boudica for an additional civil action, but Danny Boy then might go for Sun Tzu, and I would have to use a military resource very early. So I think just going for Homer here for one civil action is quite nice. I take him, elect him, build a mine, increase my population, so a pretty standard turn. I draw the Crusades and the Barbarians. Danny Boy goes for Sun Tzu, interestingly, over Boudica, but Brightfuture has Alex, so Alex also already a counter against Boudica, not a reason for me to not go for her, and with that Danny Boy is not willing to go for Boudica. Interestingly, there is Jan Shishka coming down the row, but Danny Boy can't really take him for 3 civil actions here, so Brightfuture will now have the chance to go for Shishka. Brightfuture elects Alex, takes Shishka, builds a mine. I think the turn looks very good. With Alex, he wants to have a new leader as quickly as possible, and taking Jan Shishka in a Sun Tzu game is of course quite strong. For my turn, I can use maybe some civil actions to build a lab or build a step of the library, potentially to increase my population, but I'm basically forced to take some cards here. And at the end, I just thought maybe having that monarchy available is just very solid. I thought for a moment about Michelangelo, because with Homer, having a leader and knowing that I can replace Homer when I want to can be quite fine. I have an additional happy face, so Michelangelo will get a bit of additional culture production, and maybe I can then just take 1 or 2 wonders, and then Michelangelo already would be fine. So I do think it could be an interesting pick, and but at this point I don't know whether I will get iron, when the wonders will be available, so at the end I just rather wanted to have the monarchy. Then when I take the monarchy, I do think there are some different lines that I could take. I could just build a lab, increase my population. The good thing about this would be that I spend a lot of food and resources, meaning at the next turn I might actually have a chance to do a revolution here. And I do think that could be an interesting line. Maybe I should have gone for it. I built a lab, I get some additional science production immediately. At the end I choose something differently because I build a step of the library and then I will actually take the urban growth A. One of the reasons why I went for this is that I saw that Forbidden City coming down the row, and having the monarchy and the Forbidden City I think is quite nice, makes the monarchy a good long-term solution. So I thought maybe at the next turn, if there's nothing too important on the row, I might just finish the library, go for the Forbidden City, finish that maybe at the end of H1 or beginning of H2, and then I maybe have quite a solid setup, and I thought maybe it could be worth it to keep that option alive. Also generally with Homer, of course, it can be beneficial to finish the wonder relatively quickly, to potentially also be able to replace him quickly if an interesting H1 leader is in the row. And like this, I also can stay out of consumption. Taking the urban growth, not ideal, but it basically gives me one food and a resource for one civil action, which I think is a fine deal at the end if there are two resources revealed from a development, and now thanks to the urban growth they can actually finish the library and build a second lab at the next turn. So I do think maybe that's fine. Building the step, nonetheless, building the lab gives me the science production one turn earlier, and an early revolution can be quite strong. So I'm not totally certain if I played this turn correctly, but maybe if I go for the Forbidden City at the next turn, then I could maneuver myself into a good setup. Also, I didn't seed this turn because I'm playing against Sun Tzu and Shishka, so I thought maybe it's better for me if the event deck moves a little bit slower. And also I didn't want to push any of those strength events in. Danny Boy seeds, the development of trade routes are revealed, so if I would have gone for a revolution setup, I might have gotten a bit disrupted by that now. Danny Boy reveals the fighting band tactic already, builds 3 steps of the Rome roads, is willing to build them before building the second lab, but with that maybe can spend his civil actions more effectively, and then he will increase his population at the next turn, can then maybe finish the Rome roads, get out of consumption again. If he gets some resource from the events, can maybe also build the second lab. Brightfuture used Alex this turn, with that he can increase his population 2 times without going into consumption, builds the second lab, goes for Shishka, just spends the civil actions effectively, which I think is a good choice. Then it is my turn. I again have some events that I could push, and as you can see, I actually pushed the immigration here. I have Homer, I'm the one who has the happy face at the moment. I have a free population, so if the development of religion is revealed, I am able to take it. And so with that, I was willing to push. Also, it could be interesting if I get some additional resources, because the development of trade routes is just not enough to be able to finish the library and build a second lab. Then I think that could be interesting, so I at the end decided to push here. The development of politics is revealed, which gives me 2 tactics that I can use, which is definitely nice to have. Also, the cultural influence is a relatively safe event to seed. This turn I will finish the library, leaving me with 2 civil actions. I have to get out of corruption now. Potentially I could build a warrior using the additional military resource from Homer, but I have this medieval army tactic. Maybe committing to a second warrior already is not that great, and with that I decided to not use Homer's resources yet. Taking the Forbidden City with the development of trade routes revealed would now lead to corruption, unless I again would be able to build a warrior with Homer, but I thought maybe it's a bit too expensive and I wouldn't have a free population when I build this warrior, meaning I'm not prepared for development of warfare or religion. And also there's a breakthrough available for 1 civil action. With me doing that big 8 science investment soon, or at least planning to, I think the breakthrough will be very helpful to also get some other technologies developed. And with that I just, with my last 2 civil actions, increased my population and took the breakthrough, so that I'm out of corruption, get that card, and I don't commit to a second warrior yet. With that, I can still maybe take a free warrior from the development of warfare and still go into the medieval army tactic when I then build 2 knights later on. I keep both tactics available, and the cultural influence is a safe event to push. The pestilence I draw and enable trade agreement. Danny Boy seeds, the development of crafts are revealed. Thanks to those additional resources, he is able to finish the Rome roads now, build the second lab, still has 2 civil actions left. He takes the swordsman, those work nicely with the fighting band tactic that he has, and then also takes the urban growth, make sure to not go into consumption. Brightfuture this turn finishes the Acropolis. Potentially he could just take the Silk Road, but instead he just takes some yellow cards, which I think is also a fine pick. Now it is my turn, and I this turn decided to not push, and then I just thought I might try to offer the Naval Trade Agreement pack to Brightfuture. I gained some additional blue tokens, which helps me a little bit at the moment, and I at the moment have no knowledge about any colonies. Of course, there's the Suez Canal and James Cook in there, so giving one of my opponents a colonization force could potentially backfire, but I thought the blue tokens might offer me some flexibility. And on this turn, as you can see, I will take the alchemy here, but I also really thought about going for the Silk Road. Maybe it doesn't work out perfectly, because ideally, if I go for the Silk Road, I would like to build a second lab relatively quickly. And of course, it would be nice to maybe build a second lab with the urban growth, with the Silk Road bonus, but sadly that's not nicely possible, as then I would still have corruption, and it would, building the Silk Road the first step, and the second lab would take all of my civil actions. Again, I might maybe just build a warrior with Homer. Maybe that could be an interesting choice. I will get the monarchy soon. I would have the breakthrough that I can also use with the Silk Road bonus, so I really thought about it here. But at the end, I decided to rather go for the alchemy. I have the chance here to build an alchemy directly, to then go for another upgrade soon, going up to 5 science production. I can actually, as you can see, build the alchemy this turn, and I still have exactly 8 science available at the next turn, meaning I can set up some strong science production now, then go for the monarchy, and maybe still have some freedom to do some other things, for example going into iron or something, while with the Silk Road a lot of civil actions would be committed. On the other hand, the Silk Road setup would mean that I have more passive culture income, and with the breakthrough and the urban growth in hand, maybe could already generate me some value. Then I will finish it, and I will also get some science income, and then I haven't committed to the alchemy, meaning maybe I can fix more areas of my economy with going for an H2 solution. So I do think the Silk Road could have been an interesting choice here, but in the game I decided to go for this alchemy, which I think also gives me quite a nice science boost. And one issue of the Silk Road is also with it taking a lot of civil actions, it could be a bit problematic with Homer also needing an additional civil action to get replaced, and could maybe cause some drop problems for me then. Danny Boy offers a pact to me, which I happily accepted, of course. He has Sun Tzu, I have to be a bit careful. But there's no military heavy leader coming down the road for the moment, and I maybe can also just cancel it if I feel threatened by it. Danny Boy will actually go for Isabella for 2 civil actions, which is interesting. Maybe there are some different factors why he's willing to do it. First of all, it could be that he maybe has already pushed some colonies into the deck, and then Isabella's ability, of course, could be quite nice. Maybe he doesn't want her to fall into my hands. And after taking the iron, which is all a bit expensive, but at least he gets some additional production immediately and can go for some upgrades at the next turn. He will get out of corruption with building a warrior, and with having gone for Isabella, he can actually go for the Taj Mahal here. And I mean, he has that many resources that maybe taking that wonder for free is also a reason to then maybe go for Isabella this turn. Also, if you are showing some interest in why he is choosing the Taj Mahal here, you can also look up his video. The first video that he did on his YouTube channel was when to take the Taj Mahal for free, in which situations, and in which situations to skip it. So in this situation he decided to take it, which I think makes sense with having that many resources available, and at the next turn maybe can set up some strong iron production and then finish the Taj Mahal later on. Now it's Brightfuture's turn. He plays the Legion tactic, takes the Swordsman, the Bread and Xerxes. There's Pierre in the game, there's Anthony Gaudi and Darwin in the game, so there's certainly some synergy for the Tappy Face solution. And then he just increases his population a bunch of times with revealing the Legion tactic, already goes up to 4 strength, starts a little bit of culture productions, can maybe soon copy the upgraded Fighting Band tactic from Danny Boy. This turn I have exactly 8 science, and I decided to go for the monarchy. I will also take the Code of Laws in hand, and I thought about if I maybe want to commit to the Code of Laws first, to maybe leave myself the option open to go for an H2 government form instead of the monarchy, but I thought I have that much science that I probably will go for both soon anyway, and then going for the monarchy just offers me additional draws thanks to the additional military action, and so I go for the monarchy first here. Then I have some civil actions left, and there's Columbus on the row. And of course I don't have any colony in hand, so normally maybe not a situation where I would take him for 2 civil actions, but on the other hand, there's the Suez Canal and James Cook in the game, and if those cards in the game, I value Columbus quite a bit more highly, and the other thing is I have Homer, and I might have to replace him already at the next turn. I don't know which leaders will be available, I don't know how expensive they will be. Genghis Khan might not be that useful, with the fighting band tactic being the upgraded one, despite me having a heavy cavalry in hand. And so I decided to actually go for Columbus here. First of all, this turn I will start using Homer's resources. I know now that the fighting band tactic got upgraded and can maybe just build this, and at the next turn a warrior or potentially also knight or swordsman. I guess the swordsmen are gone, but maybe I could also still go for knights and 2 medieval army tactics potentially. I will then go for Columbus, the Code of Laws, which is just a nice upgrade to my monarchy once I have the science available. And then to get out of corruption, I could potentially just upgrade a second lab. However, here I decided to go for increasing my population, leaving myself open for both development of warfare and religion, which could both be useful, with my plan probably being to go for some fighting band tactics. And also, it just leaves me a bit more flexible. I can probably want to elect Columbus at the next turn, and I have only 4 civil actions left. And then I can maybe just take some cards, and I'm a bit more flexible. But maybe just playing it a bit greedily and going for the lab upgrade could be fine. But especially with those 2 developments still being in the deck, both religion and warfare, I rather wanted to have a free population available. Then, thanks to the library, I can actually keep all of my cards in my hand. And of course, I was quite happy about this draw. I got very lucky here, taking Columbus as a bit of a gamble, and then immediately drawing the strongest H1 colony for him. I was extremely happy about that, and already immediately felt a lot better about my position. Now it's Danny Boy's turn. He doesn't push, instead he goes for the iron, can go for 1 upgrade, for 2 upgrades, is now at 7 resource production actually, and with the last civil action he will just increase his population. He is still on lower civil actions, has to play it effectively, especially with a strong production, so I think it's good that he doesn't take any of those cards here. Now it's Brightfuture's turn. He seeds and opens the development of science. He builds a 3rd lab, interestingly, but that might mean that he wants to go for the monarchy soon with the discount from the Acropolis. Starts building some swordsmen, is now the strongest with 6 or even 8 strength once he copies the upgraded fighting band tactic, and then, as expected, will go for the monarchy with the discount and gets that going very cheaply. Takes then the rich land, which might help him getting into coal, as he will now be the player that misses out on the 2nd copy of iron. Now it is my turn, and I have the chance to push something into the deck, and then afterwards the event deck will be flipped immediately. And I decided to actually push here. First of all, the other event that I have already seeded is the immigration, and for now I still am the only player with a happy face, but Brightfuture has taken those bread and circuses. There's the chance that soon he might invest into it, and so I thought maybe giving myself the chance to see a quick immigration revealed could be important. And I think I have actually a card in hand that has the potential to be quite nice for me, and that is the Dark Ages, which of course feels a little bit counterintuitive with me having some strong science production. But the thing is, I have 6+4, I can develop the Code of Laws this turn, I will take Cultural Heritage plus the Iron, I have again a technology that I can just invest my science into, and then I was hoping that I will lose not that much, and if I lose a little bit, then maybe it's not too bad because of my strong science production. Well, for example, Danny Boy, maybe he will try saving up some science for an H2 government form, and with his low production, Dark Ages could hit him quite heavily potentially, and Brightfuture also doesn't have knowledge about it, might also lose a bunch of science, so I at the end thought it could be potentially a good seed for me. I seed the development of warfare is revealed. Thanks to increasing my population at the turn before, I can take that free warrior. I still can increase my population 1 time more, build another warrior with Homer's resources. I can copy to the upgraded fighting band tactic going up to 8 strength. At the next turn, if the age should end, I would have an uprising issue, but luckily I have drawn that vast territory with Columbus, so if I elect Columbus now, which I will definitely do, I can then get that vast territory at the next turn. I will then develop the Code of Laws to go low in science. I could have also gone for maybe one iron upgrade and take the cultural heritage. Actually not, because the last civil action then would have to be to elect Columbus, and so I rather wanted to just take the iron in hand for now. And that leaves me the option to take some other cards. First and foremost, the cultural heritage, but at the end I also thought it could be quite a strong drama game. Irrigation may be also fine to have with the additional yellow tokens from the vast territory. There's the chance that it can nicely serve as a long-term solution. But there is Bach in the game, Anthony Gaudi, Marlene Dietrich, no Hollywood, but still there is some synergy, and with that I rather wanted to pick the drama here than the irrigation. And with there being some interesting cards to pick, I decided to go for the Code of Laws instead of starting with an iron upgrade. Also, as you can see, I was willing to take those cards at the cost of going for a lab upgrade. I thought with the Dark Ages now being in there, going for that upgrade might potentially just cost me a science anyway. And saving those resources will also mean that I can go for more iron upgrades at the next turn. So yeah, I decided that not upgrading that yet, and instead grabbing those cards might just be best here. I draw the Rebellion, which could potentially be an interesting event. Danny Boy doesn't see it. He takes the Free Warrior, builds a religion interestingly with the urban growth. Maybe he's afraid of a potential rebellion, or maybe he's even seeded it himself. Goes for the last iron upgrade, is at the moment at 8 resource production, which is quite a lot. Starts upgrading, or upgrades actually all of his warriors to swordsmen using the military actions while he's still in H1, so that he doesn't miss out on those precious H2 draws. But is still only at the same amount of strength as I am. Brightfuture takes the Free Warrior. Sadly, with that he has a bit of an happy face issue, or at least at the next turn will have to build a bread and circuses anyway, meaning he will build one now, which is not ideal because I've seeded immigration, and now Brightfuture would actually be the one who profits from it. Then he takes the alchemy, which allows him to go for some upgrades, as he has missed out on the iron. That might be nice having the option to do so. With him taking that one card, he also makes the age will end, and could potentially cause me some uprising issues, as he doesn't know what colony I have, but me being willing to go for all of this, of course he has to suspect that I have actually gotten a bit lucky with that colony draw, and I will cash in Columbus for that vast territory. And then I think it's just strong to go for some iron upgrades this turn, as I want to spend some science for the Dark Ages. And I can go for 2 upgrades here to get out of corruption. And then I think I have some different options here. One of them would be to maybe just take the Himeji Castle here. Himeji Castle, especially in the late game, is quite a strong wonder. I think I've grown a little bit again on that wonder. For some time I took it very rarely and didn't like it that much, but I do think it's definitely a very decent wonder to get. And also, they are maybe not the most interesting H2 wonders for me. There's one that would be very interesting, and that was at the end also one of the reasons why I decided against the Himeji Castle. The Suez Canal, with now having that one free colony from Columbus, could just be an extremely strong wonder for me. I just need one H2 colony, and already I think it's very strong to get for me. But for example, the Harvard College, which certainly is a strong wonder, in this situation, with me having Alchemy's Blaster Library, is maybe not the most urgent thing that I need or that I want to get, and with that it would not be too bad maybe to block the wonder slot. Nonetheless, at the end, with the Suez Canal and also with some interesting yellow cards being in the row, I decided against it. I could then, for example, now take both Breakthrough and Engineering Genius. However, with there being only the Suez Canal maybe as a wonder that I really want to take. Of course, the Gremlin could maybe be interesting, the other wonders as well, but I thought it's not completely clear whether I will get a wonder. On the other hand, I have now already Iron and Alchemy going, and if you're in such a setup, and have also a decent amount of actions, already have your government forms fixed, then there are not that many things left that you need to fix in H2, which I think increases the chance that you might just want to take a wonder and invest into it. So maybe it could have been worth it to go for that Engineering Genius gamble here. The problem being is that I don't have knowledge about reds, and with that I decided at the end to increase my population and only take one of those yellow cards, and then I took the one where I know for certain that I will get some value out of it, and decided against the Engineering Genius. I will get some draws, of course. Now I was always looking forward to, or was interested in seeing if I maybe draw a colony, which could open up the door for a Suez Canal. Danny Boy Seeds and Dark Ages Immigration are not revealed yet, instead a Scientific Breakthrough, which is a fine event for me, but I think especially for Danny Boy, the additional science is also very helpful. He's actually willing to take the selective breeding for 3 civil actions here. Both of the irrigations have been skipped by the players. There's no ocean liner service in the game, so while it is of course expensive, especially with him being on 4 civil actions, maybe the situation calls for it here, and maybe it's just something that he needs to do here. Now it's Brightfuture's turn, he seeds as well. Again, none of my events is revealed, instead the inhabited territory, which I was actually willing to send 3 units and my colonization card, especially with the Suez Canal actually coming down the row. If I win that colony, I'm certainly willing to go for a gamble here and just take it without having an H2 colony drawn yet. But Danny Boy has Isabella, has lots of resources lying around, and with that he actually wins that colony for just 1 unit, has already drawn an H2 colonization card, which of course helps him, but also can easily pay 3 resources with Isabella without too much of a drawback. Brightfuture will go for the masonry. That allows him to save some resources when going for all of those alchemy upgrades, which I think is a nice choice by him. And then he can go for 2 upgrades immediately, going up to 5 science production, and then he upgrades the warrior to swordsman, making use out of his free military action. Now it is my turn, and I have to think about if I want to push or not. And it's a tough call, because the immigration sadly is at this point won by Brightfuture, but maybe I won't do anything about this at my turn anyway, so that is not really a big reason to not push, unless of course if the event deck moves very slowly I might get another chance to build some happy faces at some point. But I thought more about the Dark Ages. Of course, when we take a look at the amount of science that I've saved up now after the Scientific Breakthrough was revealed, I would actually lose quite a bit of science, and for example Brightfuture wouldn't lose as much, but I just felt like Danny Boy, he would just get hit quite heavily by those Dark Ages. And as you can see, the Republic is actually coming down the row. If the Dark Ages aren't revealed before his turn, he might just go into the Republic and afterwards might be very safe from the Dark Ages. So I felt like it would have a very big impact if those Dark Ages are revealed now, and with that I was willing to push. And I at the end pushed the Prosperity, as I didn't want to risk the Rebellion and the Pestilence, and thought the Prosperity is maybe hopefully not the most influential event. As you can see, no Dark Ages are revealed, but actually the Foray, which is also something that I was happy to see. And as you can see, I actually just take 3 resources from that event, as I will have enough food to increase my population 1 more time at the next turn, then have already 2 free population lying around, so I thought maybe I want to rather have the additional resources. I have used Columbus. I want to get a new H2 leader as quickly as possible. I have no religion, meaning I do think that's a very nice time for Darwin. I can either hope to get 1 copy of Team Sports, or I can maybe go for some dramas with my nice yellow bank. That might be enough of happy faces for a while as well, and would set myself up for my Lene Dietrich very nicely. So I felt like going for Darwin is something that I certainly need to do here. I will elect him here. And then I have still 3 civil actions left, and here I thought about 2 main options. The one option, which is maybe the safer one, the more straightforward one, maybe also the better one, is to just take those riflemen for only 2 civil actions thanks to Darwin, develop them and go for at least 1, maybe more, but probably only 1 upgrade, as I know that the next 2 events are not strength related. That would mean that I first of all get out of corruption, I spend some science, which is very important for the Dark Ages, and generally, with me being on 4 warriors, having the riflemen is just very important, very strong, helps me a lot with the military, makes me safer. And maybe I should just go for that. But here I decided to maybe go for a greedy line, which I'm, to be honest, not really certain if that is really the way to go. And here I actually chose to go for the Suez Canal, without having a colony in hand. And I do think maybe that's just, maybe it's not really worth it. I do think that has a lot of potential, and if there wouldn't be a strong alternative turn, maybe I would like it, or I would be fine with looking back at this decision and going for it. However, securing myself that copy of Rifleman, getting out of corruption, I will actually have corruption now, developing the Rifleman for the Dark Ages, that's just a very solid turn. But also, again, as I said, with the setup that I'm having, I think it's really strong for me to get an H2 Wonder, and the Suez Cannon might just be the best one that I can get if I should draw any H2 colony. It's not really that much of a denial, because Danny Boy, or actually it is a bit of a denial. Danny Boy normally wouldn't have enough civil actions to finish the Taj Mahal and take that, or actually it is not a denial, because I for the moment thought with the Republic he could take it, but if the Suez Canal stays on 2, then even then he can't take it. So it's not a denial, it's just to get it for myself. If I don't take the Suez Canal now, it will very, very likely be discarded before my next turn, as Danny Boy will very, very likely go for both Republic and Breakthrough. And if I draw an H2 colony, that might work out quite nicely. One reason why I was willing to go for that is also that both of my opponents actually have already committed to Swordsman, so I saw some chances that I might actually just get that copy of Rifleman for cheaper at my next turn, or if not, then maybe the second one at some point. And so I went for the Suez Canal. Maybe if I would have a strong colony in hand already, I would be fine with this turn, or as said, if there's not the greatest alternative, maybe it could still be the right choice, but I do feel like maybe just going for the Rifleman and not for the Suez Canal might have been the better and also a lot safer choice here, because of course there's the chance that I might just not draw any colony. The thing being, I have 4 military actions, so hopefully I can make sure to get 3 draws every turn, and with that I have a very decent chance of drawing a colony at some point. But also taking corruption for it, I could have actually delayed electing Darwin and gone for a mine upgrade. I do think maybe that could have been worth it. It's basically, I have no corruption and gives me +1 production. I do think that's something that I didn't really consider when playing the game. Maybe I went for the turn a little bit too quickly. I do think the 2 culture from Darwin is not that important as the resources, so also that decision maybe not ideal. With the next draw after the choice, I don't get a colony yet, so I still need to wait for one. Danny Boy will go for the Republic. Sadly, the Dark Ages haven't been revealed in time, and now he's very low on science and has the government form going. So sadly, that won't work out nicely, but I think we also saw the potential here, the potential damage that the Dark Ages could have done, so I still think it was worth the shot of seeding that into the deck, especially if maybe a government form would have been a bit later. Danny Boy will then build a Swordsman, builds another Swordsman, goes up to 12 strength, takes the first copy of cannons for 3 civil actions, and then also the Breakthrough, which is very helpful for him getting that for 1 civil action. Now it's Brightfuture's turn. He will actually go for a kidnap against me. I decide to just discard a bunch of my cards, which was a bit of a tough decision. I thought about different events that maybe could be useful for me. At the end, I just kept a Pestilence with my nice yellow bank. If I maybe should get a second copy of Selective Breeding, that could turn out to be quite a nice event for me. Or if I should maybe draw a nice yellow token colony for the Suez Canal. And at the end, I decided to keep all of my colonization cards, as I thought maybe at the next event deck there could be some colonies coming, with Danny Boy having Isabella, with Brightfuture having the additional colonization force from the Pact. And so I kept those and only 1 event in hand. Brightfuture increases his population, goes down to 0 food, takes the strategy. He has a solid amount of science, so it's nice for him having that available. And as you can see, sadly, he will take that copy of Rifleman, and that's a bit bad for me. It could have been a nice technology for me to invest some science into, very important for me to have for the military, but he takes it away from me, and now I have to hope that I get the second copy at some point. And I was already not so sure at this point if maybe I have done, if maybe it was a mistake not taking those Riflemen at the turn before. Now it is my turn. As you can see, I immediately take the team sports. And I think, yeah, that's just something that I have to take thanks to Darwin. It only costs me 1 civil actions. It's the best happy face solution that I can get for Darwin. Pierre's in the game. And also additionally, first of all, I want to spend some science, so I need some technologies that I am fine investing into. additionally, the immigration is the other event that is still coming. I need to get out of corruption. I can't finish the Suez Canal because I have no colony in hand yet. And with that, I think actually building an arena also for some additional strength is quite helpful for me. So I developed that. I built one. I went for an iron upgrade to get out of corruption. That leaves me with exactly enough resources to finish the Suez Canal at the next turn in case I should already draw an interesting colony. Then I have still some civil actions left, and I still have quite a lot of science after my turn, which I didn't like that much, and so at the end I decided to commit to another technology, and with me having that many happy faces, and hopefully if I draw a colony at some point, some strong reduction with the Suez Canal, I do think also with having Darwin, journalism is quite an interesting technology for me. I decided to take the copy on the 2 civil action area here, as I can also take it for 1 civil action with Darwin, and I develop it. As you can see, I actually develop it with the breakthrough, which seems a bit weird at first, as the breakthrough I'm basically just throwing away 1 science by using it now instead of using it after the Dark Ages have been revealed. The problem is, Brightfuture is looking quite threatening at the moment. He has 16 strength already, he has the strategy in hand. If he has a war, he can easily declare that war and develop the strategy, and already he has a very, very threatening amount of strength. And if I develop the journalisms now without the breakthrough, I'm at 6 science after my turn, and if then the Dark Ages are revealed, I'm at 5. Now I'm at 8, and if the Dark Ages are revealed, I'm at 6. And being at 6 science could make an extremely big difference in case I should get hit by a war, because now I could go for maybe the 2nd copy of Rifleman for something like cavalry and cannons, so I'm a lot more threatening, and also if the technologies are available, I can just a lot more easily defend against a potential war, which is why I at the end decided to use the breakthrough here actually, despite the Dark Ages coming. It's of course a bit of a commitment developing the journalisms already, but I have a decent amount of science. And I do think with Darwin and my healthy yellow bank, that could just end up being a useful technology for me. I again will get my next draw. Still no colony, sadly. The economic progress could end up being an interesting event for me. Danny Boy finishes the Taj Mahal this turn, goes up to 4 culture production. Especially once age 3 starts, he will have a lot of culture production from his 2 wonders. Takes the organized religion to have happy face solution, takes opera, which works nicely with, for example, Bach, Gaudi, and all of those theater leaders in age 3, so definitely a game where it could be worth it having an opera in hand. Maybe I could have also gone for 1, but I have already that many happy faces, and with Darwin I just think journalism is the better pick here. Now it's Brightfuture's turn. I was afraid that he might go for a war, as there is no Rifleman on the row yet. Luckily for me, he doesn't go for a war, but he goes for an infiltrate against me here, and I decided, of course, to defend against that. And I can use those 2 colonization cards. I think I could have also used 2 other cards here. But here I actually made a call to keep both of the events available, because I will have the chance to take that, or I might have the chance to take that copy of Selective Breeding at my next turn. If Brightfuture doesn't take it away, which might happen, but if not, and if I get a colony for the Suez Canal, the economic progress could just turn out to be a very strong event for me. And also if I get the Selective Breeding, as said, the Pestilence could be very interesting, so at the end I decided to keep both of those events, but of course there's the chance that I might regret having used the H1 defense card. And I definitely wanted to keep the tactic, the war I would be willing to throw away. Brightfuture takes the coal, develops the strategy, goes up to 19 strength, and sadly he is willing to take that Selective Breeding for 3 civil actions, meaning both of the copies of Selective Breeding are gone. I haven't taken the irrigation earlier. Luckily I have that healthy yellow bank, so maybe I can be somewhat fine, but it certainly might be at a population shortage, and that could cause some problems for me. Now it is my turn. I actually still seed the economic progress into the deck. Maybe a bit of a questionable seed, but I wanted to push here, as now I would win the immigration, and also I didn't really find anything that I necessarily wanted to invest science into this turn, and with that I also just thought if the Dark Ages are revealed right now I would be very happy with it, and the Pestilence I didn't want to seed now that I just missed out on the 2nd copy of Selective Breeding. And now the Dark Ages are revealed, so at the end this event didn't work out perfectly for me, but at least I also at the end don't lose that much more science than my opponents. This turn I will start by increasing my population. And I thought about some different lines here. I thought even about maybe taking the architecture, building, and journalism. The problem is Brightfuture just went for an aggression against me. I used some defense cards, and I need some additional strength in order to make sure that I could, with the additional defense cards that I'm having, that I could again defend against an aggression. And if I don't want to destroy something, go for 2 more warriors, which would be a bit of a commitment. There's only one nice way how I can do that, and that is actually by going for the navigation, which gives me the 2 strength, and in case there are actually some colonies coming, could also help me win those colonies, maybe make my Suez Canal bigger. So I do think the navigation is a decent technology for me here. But again, I also need to be concerned about not getting hit by a war, and now after I have invested into the navigation, I'm only at 4 science at the next turn, meaning again, I can't really go for a copy of Rifleman, which would be an easy way to get some additional strength, and with that, even though it's quite expensive, I was willing to build a journalism here to put me at 6 science again, and I could still at least go for 3 upgrades to Rifleman if I should get hit by a war. It's a bit greedy, but it also gives me some very strong benefits. 2 additional science, 3 additional culture per turn is just quite strong. It's a bit greedy, don't have the most population, but maybe I just need to be that greedy, as that just will provide me a lot of value over the course of the game. So I, at this point, was willing to build that additional journalism. Then I have 2 civil actions left, and I decided to just take 2 yellow cards. With investing into the journalism, I have not enough resources to finish the Suez Canal the next turn, but of course I also haven't drawn a colony yet, and of course I was getting a bit nervous about the Suez Canal, as I still haven't found a colony for that. I will get 1 more draw this turn and probably the next turn, and I again don't get any colony. I draw another tactic that I can use, also another war that maybe Brightfuture doesn't have available, which could be good to know. Danny Boy offers the international trade agreement to Brightfuture. Danny Boy will get an additional resource production, while Brightfuture will get an additional food production. Danny Boy will then build an additional swordsman, interestingly. Him being willing to go for that commitment likely has to do with it making the difference between being able to defend against Brightfuture or not. Of course, maybe if there's a colony coming, it could also be helpful for that. He goes for some food upgrades now, starts some food production, takes the scientific method and the urban growth in hand, so that he can also go for some big science upgrades soon. One of the leaders left in the deck is actually Newton, so he, I think, has the potential for a strong setup here. However, with Danny Boy already at this point having missed out on the strategy, he is also maybe a bit vulnerable to some military stuff. Now it's Brightfuture's turn. He doesn't go for a war aggression. That I was happy to see. Nonetheless, I also wasn't perfectly happy about him seeing that scientific cooperation with Danny Boy, offering that to him. So they have now, sadly, the 2 strong pacts, trade agreement and scientific cooperation ongoing. I, of course, got lucky with the H1 pacts, having the naval trade agreement and, more importantly, the open borders agreement. But yeah, having this in a 3-player game when both of your opponents have those pacts available, it's of course not something that you like to see. Brightfuture can already develop 1 technology this turn, and Danny Boy might then be able to go for the scientific method at his turn, so I do think it's a pact that works out very well for them. Brightfuture starts by going for coal, goes for 1 upgrade, uses the rich land that he has taken quite some time earlier, takes the 2nd copy of cannons, meaning I will be the one being left out of the cannons. The good news for me is that I have the classic army drawn, so if I get Rifleman and Cavalryman, I still might have a way to get my strength in H3. Brightfuture then takes the copy of rich land, which allows him nicely to go for some quick upgrades at the following turns. Now it is my turn, and I can't really push the pestilence with me having missed out on a food solution, so I decided to pass on politics here. First of all, I will start my turn by just taking a cavalryman. I can take it for 1 civil action thanks to Darwin. And this turn I also have some difficulties to actually spend my civil actions effectively, because I sadly can't really invest too much into the Suez Canal, as I still haven't drawn a colony. And I might I need to take some cards anyway, and then the cavalryman is something that I certainly want to get. And also, actually, both of my opponents have no knights available, so I also really just need to make sure that I have the technology available. So I think that's maybe the most important civil action. Then I decide to get rid of a yellow card using the deficient upgrade to go for an alchemy upgrade. Using the yellow card will mean though that I either have corruption, or the only real way to get out of corruption would be to build a step of the Suez Canal, where I have to think about if I'm willing to do it, as I'm sadly at this point might just not get a colony in time and then might not want to finish it. But first of all, I can maybe, of course, depends on what can I do with my other civil actions. I thought about taking the reserves as a nice thing that I can do. Probably will give me an additional population, which is very important. The architecture, even though I have already invested into some urban buildings, I thought could still be something very nice for me to get, especially if I still get a colony for the Suez Canal. And then after those two cards taken, I can't really do that much with my remaining civil actions, and with that I decided that I'm actually willing to build a step of the Suez Canal to get out of corruption. Basically, as I can't really do that much with the remaining civil action, and I would have corruption otherwise, it basically only costs me 2 resources. So even if I should not get a colony, which at this point I certainly have to expect that might happen, at least I still only lose 2 resources. But if I should still get a colony, and of course there is still hope, then of course it would be quite nice having built a step already and not having taken corruption or something, or not having not used this efficient upgrade when I had a chance to also make a bit space in my hand. So I at the end was willing to build that step, but there is a chance that it's actually just a waste of some resources. And then I said I take the architecture. I decided to take the right copy here. Not sure if that is correct, because Danny Boy doesn't have that much science available for the moment. Brightfuture has already the masonry. But at the end I thought they have the scientific cooperation pact. It costs Danny Boy only 4 science. Maybe he will go for Newton. He might go for scientific methods soon. And with that I thought the architecture might still end up being a worthwhile technology for him. And so I decided to take the right copy and not the one on the discard spot. I then also take the reserves. That leaves me still with 1 free civil action. And with having drawn the classic army tactic, at the end I decided to do already the commitment to cavalryman. And now, of course, I was very nervous to see my draw here. I made sure to get 3 draws in every turn during H2, but I also just went for a gamble, maybe an unnecessary one, with there being the nice option of the Rifleman turn available. The second copy of Rifleman still hasn't shown on the row, and now, of course, I was very nervous. Do I at the end really get punished, or do I get the colony at the last possible moment? And sadly, as you can see, I don't get a colony, so I do get punished here for my creed. I do get some tactics, and especially the hussars might be interesting if I don't want to invest into riflemen, even though the classic army might still be the better one at the end. Yeah, but with that, unless a miracle happen, and that miracle could be if both of my opponents seed, because at Brightfuture's turn there will likely still be H2. If both of my opponents seed, the next event would be the migration, and if one of those events is just strategic territory, is on top, and I am able to win it, then I might still draw my colony in Brightfuture's turn, or if there's a call to arms, I might also still get some draw. So there's some small hope still remaining, but from now on I might need a miracle to still finish the Suez Canal with colonizing a territory. Danny Boy seeds, the migration is revealed. That population is extremely important for me with having missed out on a food solution. And Danny Boy will actually go for Napoleon here. There could have been some other interesting leaders, Newton with the scientific method, Bach with the opera, but he has only 2 military actions. Those other leaders aren't in the row. Would be interesting what leader he would go for if, for example, Bach and Newton would also be available at the same amount of civil actions, but Napoleon is certainly a very safe choice, and being on 3 instead of only 2 military actions makes just a very big difference for H2. He goes up to 16 strength here, goes for the scientific method, goes for 2 upgrades, is now at a very solid amount of science production, has still 2 civil actions left, and uses those to take the cavalryman. Now it's Brightfuture's turn. I was really hoping that he might seed here and that that maybe one of those miracles might happen. But instead something different, something else happened. And that was actually a very interesting choice that I had out of the sudden to face, and also a bit of a funny one, because Brightfuture will actually play an aggression against me. And that aggression is one that he already played against me earlier, meaning he has drawn the second copy, and that aggression is the Infiltrate. And when I saw that, it was a very interesting choice to face, because I can defend this aggression. I have 2 defense cards in hand, I have been a bit lucky with my defense card draws, and I could just defend the Infiltrate. The thing is, with Brightfuture not seeding, instead going for that aggression, I know for certain that I won't get any colony any longer for the Suez Canal. And now the big question was what does Brightfuture remove from me with the Infiltrate? Will he go for removing Darwin, or will he go for removing the Suez Canal? And if he should decide to go for removing the Suez Canal, that could actually be a big help for me, because I, with not having a colony, don't plan on finishing this. It's just too expensive. And then I am just in a position where I can't really grab any H3 wonder, especially with playing in first position. I only can take one at my last turn. If I would be in third position, I could maybe take one at the second last turn, because it can happen that H4 has already started by then, and that then I could still be a bit more likely to take an H3 wonder, but like this, it could be extremely difficult and could just make my position quite a bit worse. And now there could be the chance that Brightfuture, who probably doesn't expect that I have no colony in hand, might decide to just remove the Suez Canal from me. But he might, of course, also decide to remove Darwin, and Darwin is doing quite some work at the moment. 3 culture per turn, saving me some civil actions. That's something that I don't really want to lose. So the question is, what would be the choice from Brightfuture, and do I want to actually let this aggression through, or do I want to defend against it? And I thought it could make a big difference that I actually built this first step of the Suez Canal already, which in this case could turn out to be still a good investment in some sense. And with me having the architecture, only needing to develop that, need only 1 civil action, 7 resource to finish that, and with the potential that the Suez Canal still has for my position, and also with H3 starting soon, meaning that if he infiltrates Darwin, I might potentially just get a new leader relatively quickly if I'm lucky. I thought in his position, I actually might remove the Suez Canal here and not Darwin, and so I decided to let this infiltrate through. But of course, again, I was very nervous to see what Brightfuture might choose here. And I was very happy to see that he will indeed remove the Suez Canal, meaning I went for a bit of an unnecessary gamble maybe, took the Suez Canal, got punished for it, but also got out of it somehow, and at least have the option to take an H3 wonder now again. Of course, Brightfuture gets 6 additional culture, but only because of that I was not willing to defend, because it might be a lot more important to still have those defense cards around for either a potential colony to come or for potential aggressions to come. So I was very happy about that outcome, and it was quite a bit of a funny situation and also an interesting choice to think about. Brightfuture will go for another coal upgrade, takes Newton interestingly for 3 civil actions, which seems expensive at first, but of course if he takes him in the next turn, even if he takes him for 1 civil action, it doesn't really make a difference civil action wise, because now he gets still the civil action back from Jan Žižka, and if he develops only 1 tech this turn, can actually save a civil action immediately and get some additional science production. So it looks a bit expensive and weird, but it just civil action wise is the same as if he would get him for 1 civil action at the next turn. And as you can see, he is actually revealing the defensive army tactic, develops the cannons for 3 with Newton, disbands the swordsman, uses some military actions from H2 before H3 will start, takes the breakthrough in hand, is now at 20 strength, again being quite a bit threatening. He of course might think that I have no defense cards in hand, that I will still maybe be in danger of an aggression. And so he has the tactic, which sadly is also a very nice one for Danny Boy to copy. At the end of Brightfuture's turn, we are also at the beginning of H3, so it might be a nice time to take a quick look at the overview. And When we take a look at the overview, we can see that the culture is relatively close. I and Brightfuture have a bit of a lead over Danny Boy. Danny Boy has some very solid production though, but I actually also have some solid production. So culture-wise, maybe it looks slightly the best for me. I have a nice amount of science production, resource production-wise, it's very similar. Civil action-wise, Danny Boy has the advantage, but I have Darwin to maybe make up a little bit for it. And yeah, then my big disadvantage is, of course, that I don't have any way to get some additional population going. So I felt my position is a bit problematic, but I also felt like we are all relatively close. So I thought it's definitely everything possible here. Brightfuture has only 5 civil actions, but has Newton to make up for it. Has maybe some happy face issues, so can't easily invest into some very quick farm upgrades or something. So I thought a very close position where every player has still good chances to win potentially. Then during my turn I can't use my politics phase, and I was happy to see that the first card from H3 is actually a copy of Air Forces, which I will take immediately, costing me 1 civil action less thanks to Darwin. There's another interesting card from H3, Revealed the Democracy. I thought about if I maybe could take both of those cards, but it just didn't play out very nicely, and I still might take some time until I can develop the democracy, so I thought maybe it could be fine to wait for the second copy. On the other hand, I didn't like it too much to give the democracy to Brightfuture, who has the Acropolis and with the Scientific Cooperation Pact can go for that technology extremely cheaply, but I still was at the end not willing to take it as I have some things to do. I first of all really need to take the Rifleman. Being able to upgrade all of those warriors, especially with being a lone population, is just extremely important. And then I can also get into the classic army tactic. I will start though by building a cavalryman, going up to 15 strength. I will play the reserves for food, build another cavalryman. I could now reveal the Hussars tactic, but actually with all of those warriors, revealing the classic army tactic gives me the same amount of strength. I could actually also just keep the fighting band tactic. All of those tactics at the moment give me the same amount of strength. But I still felt a little bit vulnerable, maybe to some military stuff, even though at this point I think I'm somewhat fine. So maybe I could just not reveal it. But at the end I decided to reveal the classic army tactic already, but I'm at the same amount of strength, so I'm not sure if maybe I could just keep it in hand. But I also felt like, and we will actually see that at the next turn with the last civil action, I will now take the wave. Already investing into those cavalrymen puts me quite low on resources, so I do think the potential 6 additional resources that I can get from the wave are extremely helpful for me here. And I thought Danny Boy might get stronger at his turn, meaning I could already play the Wave of Nationalism at the next turn, which I then would use to go for some upgrades to Rifleman. The thing being that 2 upgrades and then if using the wave is not enough to get me out of corruption, I might need to spend some resource somewhere, and with having no free pop available, one way could just be to go for another upgrade. However, if I do that, I would go for 3 upgrades in total, spending again all of my military actions, and then if I don't reveal the classic army tactic right now, I might be missing out on some strength at the next turn, so at the end I was willing to reveal that already. I can discard some cards here, so I'm not the weakest any longer with having gone for those 2 cavalrymen. Danny Boy develops the organized religion for 2 signs only with the Scientific Cooperation Pact, fixes his happy faces, develops the cannons, builds 1, can maybe copy the defensive army tactic soon, takes the civil service, which he can develop for 8 signs only thanks to the Scientific Cooperation Pact, but can't go for it at the next turn already. Brightfuture seeds now, and as you can see, there was actually the strategic territory on top, so that miracle that I was still dreaming about after my last H2 draw step could have actually happened if Brightfuture, instead of going for the infiltrate, would have seeded the strategic territory, could have been revealed, and could have given me a colony last minute. That, of course, would have been also quite an interesting outcome. But sadly, Brightfuture removed the Suez Canal instead from me with that infiltrate. I was still happy to see it. I have the navigation, some warriors, and with that I can just win that colony for 1 warrior. Sending away a colonization card. Brightfuture has some happy face issues, but is a solution for him on the row. He can go for the professional spots. Still a bit expensive, but probably better than deleting anything. And there is peer on the internet in the game, which could be something strong that he can set himself up for. He also develops the selective breeding for free, making nice use out of the scientific cooperation pact. And then he doesn't have enough resource to go for both an upgrade to professional sports and for the selective breeding, so he just takes the efficient upgrade with his last civil action. At least it means that he doesn't go for the democracy, which I was happy to see, as I now have another chance of taking that one. Also, the second copy of Air Force is already revealed, which is bad news for Brightfuture, because he now very early might be the one who misses out in the Air Forces. With the strategic territory, have actually drawn an impact of wonders, but as you can see, with having only one wonder, that's not really a great impact, so I decided to pass in my politics phase. And yeah, I'm the weakest. From H1 there are actually still some strength events left, and I need to do some stuff, so I thought, yeah, it might be nice to go for Rifleman now, and now we can see that maybe revealing the classic army tactic already at the turn before was quite important, because now I can play the wave, I can go for 2 upgrades, that however would still leave me at corruption, but with only 1 more upgrade I am now out of corruption, and now I have the full classic army tactic fulfilled. I am at the strength lead with 29 strength. Now I still have 4 civil actions left. I could do some different stuff. Multimedia might still be able to get at the next turn. Movies could be nice for some of the theater leaders, but also a bit ambitious to invest into. I don't really have a free population, and so I thought it might just be best to take, first of all, the democracy, but then the fast food chains and the engineering genius. And already I was extremely happy that the Suez Canal isn't blocking me from taking that wonder, because all of the other wonders could be a bit tricky to build. Maybe I have a somewhat solid setup for the internet, especially if I should be the one to get PR, but the other ones could be a bit tricky, so the fast food chains might just be the easiest wonder to score a good amount of points with. I get it together with the engineering genius, and already I was very happy that my Suez Canal got infiltrated early on. Then I keep that impact in hand, as the others also don't have that many wonders, so it might still be a somewhat seedable one. Danny Boy Seeds, there is indeed a strength event on top, maybe not the most influential one, but still I was happy to not be part of it. Danny Boy plays the patriotism, builds another cannon, copies the defensive army tactic, is now already at 32 strength, takes the military build-up, the air forces, the revolutionary idea, and the reserves, gets a lot of strong cards, and especially the air forces make him look quite threatening, as he could build some air forces, and then with Napoleon would have a big amount of strength already. However, he might maybe need something like military theory to make him really threatening. Nonetheless, for Brightfuture, having missed out in the air forces is quite unfortunate. He also doesn't have the most population, and just with the defensive army tactic, he might not be in a position to very efficiently defend himself. He seeds, and a Cold War is revealed, so again I get rewarded for increasing my strength, Brightfuture getting punished for being the weakest at the moment. He goes for a farm upgrade, a mine upgrade, so upgrades his economy, takes Pierre, I think that's just the strongest leader for him, and also takes the multimedia. Now it is my turn. I don't really want to push the impact of wonders at the moment, and as you can see, there was just at the end of the row a copy of mechanized agriculture revealed, and I do think it's still early enough for that to be worth it. I need more population. It also helps for some impacts, and with that I was willing to take that and also invest into it immediately. I could have gone for the democracy instead, but then I don't have enough science to get into air force at the next turn, so maybe it's a bit too greedy anyway, and so I decided to go for the mechanized agriculture, go for 1 upgrade. Then I have 2 civil actions left. And as you can see, there are actually a bunch of leaders on the row, and of course I have to think about what could be the best leader for me to have. For Chaplin and Fleming, I would need to bank on the second copy of movies. Both of my opponents haven't taken one, could deny that. So I felt like that taking or planning for one of those might not be the best. Then there's only Marlene Dietrich or Steve Jobs left. If I don't take one right now, I need to spend some civil actions anyway. And with that, I at the end decided to actually go for, first of all, computers, but then also Marie Curie. I do think investing into computers soon might be quite nice for my economy, for impact preparation, and then with the computers, Marie Curie is just giving me 3 culture per turn, 3 strength, 1 science with the iron mines. Nothing too great, but compared to the other leaders, also just completely fine. Better than Churchill if I should only use his culture. Of course, he could also help me quite a bit with the military, but Marie will as well with the additional strength. And yeah, at the end I felt that could just be a very fine leader for me, but of course for now I'm very fine with keeping Darwin. And now with having missed out on Pierre, there is maybe not the most interesting leader left for me. I draw actually the modern army tactic if I get the second copy of rockets. That could be an interesting tactic to have. And there's actually a war happening right now. Danny Boy declares a war with technology against Brightfuture. Brightfuture maybe already gets a bit punished for both of me and Danny Boy having those early air forces, while he is the player without one. He gets hit by that war. Danny Boy goes actually up to 45 strength, develops the civil service, the opera, develops a bunch of techs with the scientific cooperation pact, which maybe at this point has been slightly in his favor. He then plays the reserves, actually builds an opera, making sure to increase his culture production, and with that is remaining in touch with me, even though I still have a little bit of a lead, but his culture production has already overtaken mine. Brightfuture cancels the scientific cooperation now. He will now lose a bit of science, so that of course makes a lot of sense. He develops the multimedia nonetheless with Newton, maybe to just spend some science, making sure that the technology is developed. Of course, it's a bit greedy, but he maybe just needs something good like the multimedia in play to have a good position. And then with the engineering genius, he can actually finish the Manhattan project, at least going up to 36 strength. I do think that Wonder helps him quite a bit here. Takes the efficient upgrade, but nonetheless will lose 9 science or blue tech plus some science here, and could actually lose the strategy, which then puts him into a very vulnerable spot. But at my turn, I have the choice if I maybe want to help Brightfuture out, and at the end I also decided to do so. I do think with getting hit by that war and with Danny Boy having the bigger culture production, I just generally felt like Danny Boy's in a better position, and with me having that fast food chain Wonder lying around, I just felt my position is hopefully good enough that I can play for the first place instead of maybe playing for second. And then I thought maybe helping Brightfuture a little bit, making it doesn't lose the strategy, because I'm at the moment can't easily go for a war. I actually have one in hand, and there will actually be a copy of Military Theory revealed during my turn, but I didn't really find a nice way to set up for a war myself, and with that I decided to help Brightfuture out here, also of course gaining some strength myself and making sure that Danny Boy can't steal the strategy away. I will in this turn go for the air forces. I don't want to be in danger of an aggression. It also gets me out of corruption building 1. I'm now at 45 strength. And then I kind of wanted to set up one upgrade to computers to start a science production, to have that computer already set up for Marie Curie. So I will do that. And then I have 2 civil actions left, and I thought about if maybe I should take the military theory here. And I thought about it because Danny Boy could now, when he isn't able to take the strategy, he still could just take 6 science from Brightfuture, giving him enough science to go for the military theory, and if he has drawn a war over culture, he could deploy that war immediately. And that could be a bit threatening. Probably would still go for against Brightfuture, but it might also not be that great for me. At the end, it was a tough choice, but I decided against it. First of all, there's a second copy still in the deck. He might just get lucky and that one is revealed immediately. He might just not have a war. He didn't have that many draws available. And I also thought that I might just need that copy of reserves very much. There will actually be the economic progress revealed, but I want to finish that wonder and just being able to build some more stuff and also to threaten more military. I kind of needed reserves, because if I don't take the reserves, then even with the economic progress being revealed, I would not have enough resources to go for another army. So for myself, the reserves actually makes it that I threaten a lot more strength than the military theory would be. Another choice that I then had to face during this turn is whether to elect Marie Curie already this turn, because culture production wise, she and Darwin are having the same output for me. Marie Curie would make me strongest immediately, which is in some ways also bad because it would allow Danny Boy to easily use the military buildup. And Marie Curie would also give me one additional science production. Darwin, however, would give me the potential to take one more technology for cheaper at the next turn. First, I thought I might want to go for Marie Curie, and at the end, I decided to keep Darwin, which I think is probably the right choice, even though afterwards I realized that maybe there was also one reason to elect Marie Curie already this turn. But the reason why I at the end decided to keep Darwin is that I thought maybe there could actually be an outcome where I could be threatening with the military, because I tried some turns to set up for a war the next turn, but taking both reserves and military theory just didn't work that nicely. I think I didn't have the hand space for it. Maybe I could have somehow done something, but I think also then would have needed the help of the economic progress. So I rather wanted to play a turn where I do some economical setup and don't go for a big war preparation or something. However, if I keep Darwin, the chances are a lot higher that maybe I could still go for a war the next turn. Definitely need to happen the right things in order for that to be possible, but it's also not completely unlikely for that to happen, because if I have the chance to take a military theory for one civil action at the next turn, which is a lot higher when I keep Darwin, then, and if also the economic progress is revealed, then I could actually develop the military theory, play the reserves, and thanks to the resource from the economic progress and having 3 civil actions left, I could increase pop 1s, destroy 2 things, maybe a farm and a mine or the lab, and build another classic army tactic. I have the strength from the military theory, and it should definitely be enough to go for a big war against Brightfuture. And I actually have the trade in hand, so after the war there's the chance that I could actually go for an aggression. Maybe with the Olympic Games, not ideal, but I might still have enough resource to go for the democracy. So because of that possibility, I wanted to keep Darwin here. However, when thinking about how much I might need the science of Marie Curie, I thought about that I want to develop democracy, and then I thought I might want to go for another H3 tech, and I realized that even with the additional science that I could score this turn from Marie Curie, I still don't really have enough science to go for democracy and another H3 tech in 2 turns, but I somewhat forgot to think about that architecture in my hand, which still has the potential to save me a little bit of resources, maybe at the next turn. Also could help for impact of variety in progress, and now I could still go for both of those techs, but only if I invest into more science, which, depending on how threatening Danny Boy will look, maybe if he goes for military theory, I can't easily afford. So maybe that could be a reason to go for Marie Curie, but I, at the end, still think that the reason with the potential war that I can go for with Darwin is maybe the bigger one, as that just would be a very big if I can maybe pull off a big war. I get 2 draws here. Another war, the hybrid war, which could be a bit tricky for me, but also an interesting option. Danny Boy will actually steal the masonry here, interestingly, which of course can still offer him some benefits, but it's interesting in the sense that he now doesn't have enough science to go for the military theory, which looks like he either doesn't have drawn a war or maybe wants to go for something different. Instead, he will cede. There is actually the economic progress revealed, and he will then increase his population, builds another opera, is already at 12 culture production, takes the urban growth, the modern infantry, the military theory, the revolutionary idea, keeps Napoleon for now, maybe wants to get the additional draw and still wants to keep the 6 strength, and yeah, then just takes all of those cards. Then it's Brightfuture's turn. He cedes, opens the prosperity. Both economic progress and prosperity were ceded by me. Brightfuture will then increase his population, builds the multimedia, a bit greedy, but he might have to play it greedily here, and he can really threaten a very big defense anyway. I mean, he could have gone for, or setting up to go for Rifleman, threaten an H3 tactic, but at this point he might just need to hope that a big war isn't happening, and at least Danny Boy, it looked like he might not have that war available. And so he builds that multimedia and is still willing to keep Newton here, which is interesting. Pierre He might lose the civil action now and stuff, but the additional science from Newton might allow him to actually develop that communism at the next turn, which then again, of course, gives him some civil actions actually. So in that case, he might lose the civil action because he doesn't get it back when replacing his leader, but thanks to the additional science, he can get that civil action back by developing that government form earlier, basically even 2 civil actions, so that probably looks like a good decision here. Also for him, the red cross might be interesting at his next turn. It's my turn. Here I actually decided to push the impact of wonders into the deck. It's not ideal. If Danny Boy goes for an additional wonder, it is actually not really worth it for me to seed it, even with the culture of seeding being included, but it's fine for me against Brightfuture, and I'm just the strongest at the moment and thought, yeah, I just want to see if I can maybe get a bit lucky and reveal a strength event already. There's no strength event revealed, instead the civil unrest, but no one loses any culture. And no, then it is my turn. And I now realize that maybe going for the architecture could be interesting. But I also realized that maybe I am relatively safe actually if I make sure to take the second copy of reserves, which I will do, so I can build a journalism, and thanks to building that and the additional culture production that I will get from it, I can actually still go for the democracy at the next turn, and thanks to having taken that copy of reserves, actually not thanks to that reserves already, with that reserves I could threaten to go for another classic army, and the good news is that there is still a copy of fundamentalism in the deck, so Danny Boy, I think declaring a war against me would just be very risky for him. Also, it looked like he maybe doesn't have a war available, and so I at the end was willing to play it a bit greedily, build a journalism already with the architecture, being able to go for the democracy at the next turn, finish the fast food chains, and then maybe still build some stuff with some additional resources that I will have. I can maybe build another team sports, and then see depending on what the turns of my opponents look like. And so I think I have a solid last turn, but Danny Boy has some good culture production, might also still get a wonder. He might also potentially go for the red cross here, and so I still thought it's all very close. I have only that impact of wonders, which isn't really that great for me. Seeded into the deck, no other impact available, so for the end of my turn I was really hoping that I might still get a good impact. I do think there are some solid ones. For progress is somewhat solid, even though maybe not that ideal, but variety, colonies, balance, harmony, architecture, science are all fine impacts, for example. So I was hoping that I might get an impact that I can see that my last turn. Sadly, I miss out on it. I draw a defense card. Who knows if that maybe still could end up being useful, but sadly no impact. Danny Boy goes for Churchill, but only after having disbanded a unit, using the military action from Napoleon, uses the military buildup actually for 10 additional resources, develops the military theory, uses Churchill interestingly. So he is building up some military, but he didn't go for any war or something, just goes for some upgrades here, builds an air force, maybe plans on going for an aggression at the next turn potentially, and goes even for that many upgrades that he misses out in some draws, which is interesting. Maybe the impact of competition or something could have potentially been seeded by him, or impact of strength, or he just wants to make himself threatening, goes for another opera, takes that internet, which gives him a somewhat solid amount of points, but not as much as the fast food chains will give me. But he has 15 culture production, will maybe get the culture from Churchill at the next turn, so with that he has now overtaken me in culture, which I was a bit worried about. Now it's Brightfuture's turn. He doesn't push, but he offers me the international tourism, which I was happy to see. It's not that big. Brightfuture will get 1 culture production this turn and 2 at the next turn. When I have finished the fast food chains, I gain 2 culture once. So Brightfuture will gain 1 more culture than I do. But I thought the overall position might still be close. Brightfuture might now go for the international Red Cross, for example. Could maybe also go for the democracy, potentially. But I was hoping that maybe my position is good enough that I can still rather hope to finish first, maybe before Danny Boy, who I thought had maybe the better position here than Brightfuture. And it's also 2 culture against Danny Boy for me, but only -1 against Brightfuture. So I at the end thought it's definitely worth it to accept this pact. Brightfuture then goes for the democracy indeed, increases his culture production like this, and then he increases his population, elects Pierre, builds the professional sports, and I thought he might just go for the red cross here. Interestingly though he doesn't, he goes for the satellites and the revolutionary idea. That of course might be an indicator towards some impacts like progress, maybe impact of technology or something. Nonetheless, not taking the red cross here, I'm not sure if that is the correct choice. Danny Boy then can't easily increase his population if he wants to build a step, and he, of course, basically only gets plus 12 plus the amount of colonies plus 15, but it's still 15 culture that he can somewhat easily get with the reserves. So probably he has some specific impacts in mind that he can maybe then, if he doesn't go for the red cross, also prepare for at the next turn. But I was surprised to see him not going for the red cross here. He's now at 65 culture, so also not that much behind. And also he will get the Olympic Games, so it's still somewhat close, but Brightfuture with not going for the red cross is now the player who is not has no wonder available. I sadly can't use my politics phase, and will go for the democracy, build one team sports, that one I want to build for certain. I can then play one copy of reserves, another copy of reserves, meaning I can finish the fast food chains and build one more thing. And I think I kinda have to build another team sports here, because with being at a 9 strength deficit to Danny Boy, I'm missing 1 strength to defend against an aggression from him. He might of course go against Brightfuture, but I mean we both would need 2 cards, so he might just go against me. And with that I could either build a unit or just another team sports, and the team sports is helpful for more impacts, gives me plus 2 for happiness, plus 2 for architecture, plus 2 for competition. And with that I build the team sports, and then with the remaining civil actions I can finish the fast food chains for 23 points, so a solid amount of points. Now it's Danny Boy's turn, he seeds, and there was a pleasant surprise on top. The popularization of science actually gives me plus 7 culture against Danny Boy, plus 5 against Brightfuture. I was of course very happy to see that, and yeah, that might make up a little bit for me not having drawn a good impact. Danny Boy goes for the computers here, can go for 1 upgrade that will improve his internet by plus 2. And then he can finish that for 18 points, takes the tanks and the fundamentalism. And then it's Brightfuture's turn, he declares the Olympic Games, seeds. Sadly this time the event is revealed that's good for Danny Boy, he scores 5 additional culture, Brightfuture will lose 3. He develops the satellites this turn, destroys something, and will then just build 2 more arenas. And with remembering that he was willing to skip the red cross, I do think that's a very big indicator to either impact of architecture and or impact of competition, as I do think skipping that red cross has to do with the impacts that he has in hand, or in the deck now ideally. And before the final impacts are revealed, we can see that Danny Boy has a bit of a lead, but I'm only 7 culture behind. Brightfuture has a bit of a deficit to overcome, but has also some strong impacts available for him. And yeah, so I do think I have chance for first place here, because generally I'm nicely prepared for impact. Sadly, I haven't drawn one myself, so now I'm dependent on what my opponents have seeded. And the first impact is the impact of happiness, and that's a good one for me to see. Gives me plus 4 against Danny Boy, meaning I'm only 3 culture behind him now. Then we have the impact of wonders, which you can see didn't really turn out to be the best seed for me. I'm losing 4 culture to Danny Boy here. Then there's the impact of architecture indeed, which gives me a small benefit against Danny Boy, and Brightfuture gains the most culture out of it, so all is still relatively close. Let's see what the last impact is. It's the impact of competition, so there were indeed both impact of competition and architecture in there, and with both of those impacts being in there, then skipping the red cross also maybe makes a bit more sense, or is more understandable. I didn't do the calculations anyway, so but both of those impacts were indeed in there. Sadly for me, that means that at the end I'm not able to overtake Danny Boy, and I finish 5 culture behind him, and Brightfuture at the end Maybe with being a bit unlucky about very early on playing without air forces, while Danny Boy and I had them available, finishes last. So yeah, I think a relatively close game. It was quite funny with the Suez Canal. Then of course I felt, oh, it's now tricky going into H3 with having the Suez Canal lying around. But then it got removed by the infiltrate. Of course, I would have much rather preferred it to have gotten a colony and finished it. But like this, I at least had a free wonder slot, could take the fast food chains, and somehow remained in the game. And yeah, it was very close at the end. Maybe with me just drawing one more impact or a better impact instead of the impact of wonders, it could already be different. Maybe instead of the politics of strength, the other H2 event would be revealed. I don't know what event that would have been, but also then, without Danny Boy getting the 5 culture, it would actually be a tie potentially. Of course, I also got the popularization of science, but I do think there was not that much missing for me to win the game. On the other hand, I do think I could have also gotten punished even more in H2 for my choice of not going for Rifleman. Brightfuture probably didn't draw any H2 war. I do think I was vulnerable at multiple turns for such a war. Also had some defense cards to defend myself, so earlier on things also could have gotten even in a worse direction for me. Of course, I could have also gotten a colony for the Suez Canal, so overall a close game, and at the end at least a second place, so I will score some points for the tournament standings. And yeah, quite an interesting game with that special Suez Canal story as maybe one of the special things happening. Alright, then the first batch of games is finished now. We can maybe take a quick look at the standings. And yeah, so we will do that now. And as you can see, I am still, despite not winning this game, in a very nice position. I have 12 points scored after the first 3 games, so I'm very happy about the season so far. Payada and is the player who is the closest behind me at the second position with 9 points. For Danny Boy, the last game I think was very important. With that, he is now also again back in the running for potential first place, but also has done a big step to maybe avoid relegation. Is now at the same amount of points as Arne, while for Brightfuture the season hasn't been going that great so far. But with 3 games remaining, he can still score some wins and hope to to stay in the league. But from now on, of course, it will be very difficult. Alright, so with that we have the first batch of the season finished. I hope you're excited for the second batch to come. And yeah, then I say thanks for watching, have a nice time, and see you in the next video.